Hello, friends. In this podcast, I want to talk about the energies around the Virgo new moon solar eclipse that is happening on Sunday, September 21st, 2025. The energies of this eclipse will be with us for quite some time, so feel free to listen to this whenever you find your way to it. The energy that I want to focus on for us is this energy of criticism and specifically around self-criticism. Personally, I have always been far more self-critical of myself than what I received from my family and my friends. And honestly, we all live in a world where self-criticism often feels like kind of a second nature. I know for me, it certainly does. Many of us are quick to point out our flaws and minimize our accomplishments, or even hold ourselves to this kind of impossible standard all the time. And it's crazy. Why do we do that? I cannot count how many times I have responded to a compliment, like on my appearance, by telling the person where I bought the thing from. So if they compliment my earrings or my dress, my purse, instead of taking a moment to kind of bask in how good that feels to get a compliment, I will instead say, oh my gosh, I got it from Marshall's, or oh my goodness, it's just from TJ Maxx, it was $12, or something like that. That is my response. And I do always say thank you, but I don't just stop at thank you a lot of the times. So this example just shows how I personally sometimes feel like it's more important for me to be helpful than to be appreciated. But that's like a whole other box, a box of psychological goodies that I'll unpack another day in another podcast. But so far, let me know if you are relating to this idea of self-criticism and just not giving yourself enough credit. This striving that we can do to constantly grow and be better and be more of service to other people can definitely be healthy and is needed for us to be good people in this life, in this world. And it's healthy to an extent, but being constantly hard on yourself can also create an underlying stress and anxiety and a sense of never being enough. So this, on the 21st, like I mentioned before, the Virgo new moon solar eclipse is bringing a powerful opportunity for us to shift that inner dialogue, those mental scripts that we tell ourselves about how we're undeserving, how we need to be doing more, how we just need to do something more than what we're already doing. Virgo is the zodiac sign that's most associated with discernment and precision and a desire for improvement. If you have any friends with very strong Virgo placements, you probably already know this. If you yourself are a Virgo, you probably already know this. At its best, that type of Virgo energy helps us to organize and heal and refine our lives. So this energy can be super useful. But at its harshest, it can manifest as nitpicking and self-doubt and a pursuit of perfectionism. So this eclipse invites us to release this shadow side of Virgo, that harsh side of Virgo energy, the endless self-critique, because the self-critique, those are the thoughts in your mind that push you to constantly think that you should do something better or different. So this eclipse invites us to release those like shadowy energies and instead step into the gift of self-refinement, but in a gentle way, and healing. So if we think about the energy of healing, something must be in need of healing. So there is like the opportunity for us to improve. If you think about the idea of healing, even through like a small cut, something has happened to your body or your finger or whatever, and it needs attention. It needs to get back as close to how it was. It's very useful for the body to heal itself. But if it's too much, if you try too hard, the body doesn't heal itself. And the body also does have a natural mechanism that's geared towards healing that does not need too much worry and extra output from the owner. So you, the mind, right? So I just wanted to talk about this in a way where we can focus on like the balance of gentle self-refinement, gentle healing, and working with gentle Virgo energy. So let's talk a little bit more about this new moon energy. Solar eclipses mark turning points. You've probably heard people say that before. They open doors, close chapters, and magnify the themes of the sign that they fall in. So again, with this one being in Virgo, the spotlight is on our inner critic. So here are some examples that you may of energies and things that you may go through this new moon eclipse energy. So old stories of perfectionism may begin to resurface, and you may start to feel like whatever you're doing, whether it's in your social life, your financial life, your career, your whatever, you may get some feelings starting to bubble up that tell you that you're not doing enough. And we know that that's probably not true, right? Another thing that might come up for you, some habits of comparison, comparing yourself to other people and how they do something that's in a different way than how you do it, or how it's better than how you do it. And again, these are all just things that live in your mind that are not really serving you very well. You may be noticing that you're holding yourself up against impossible standards. You may be comparing yourself to people who are not showing their full self, people who may have more experience than you, or whatever it is. But just comparing yourself in ways that are not healthy for you. And within these two types of situations you may find yourself in, I want you to look for opportunities for healing. So I want you to look for ways that you can start to focus instead on how you're not doing good enough, but instead to start to focus on the healthy balance and a healthy difference between discipline and self-punishment, because too much discipline can definitely start to kind of snowball into punishment. So think of this eclipse as a personal reset button, a place where you can allow yourself to plant seeds of kindness towards yourself. So continuing to talk about self-criticism and this shadow side of Virgo energy. Why do we become so self-critical? As I work through my own ideas and thoughts and I'm on my own journey, right? I often want to know like the why. So why do we become so self-critical? Before we can focus on softening the self-criticism that we may have in our minds, it is important to distinguish where it comes from for you, right? So here are 3 things that you can think about when you are trying to find out where your own habits of self-criticism come from. So first, you may be self-critical because you've learned that it is a type of survival mechanism. So criticism is often a misguided way to try to keep ourselves safe by avoiding mistakes. And you probably can my mind is also immediately going to not trying new things in order to avoid mistakes and in order to avoid being unsafe or feeling unsafe. So all of these, I hate to call them lies, but let's call them misguided programs in our minds. Those are survival mechanisms, and I don't believe that we are here to only survive. Another thing that may contribute to your habit of self-criticism is cultural pressure. So your family, your friends, even the general culture that you live in. So for example, if you can't tell, I am American. And American culture is very, very highly focused on productivity, being flawless, and constant striving for being better and more wealthy and more this, more that, thinner or thicker or whatever. There's just a lot of cultural pressure that at its base tells us that we are not doing good enough, we're not good enough. And then one more thing I wanted to share about where your habits may come from. It may also be your personal history. So that can be connected to cultural pressure, but just diving a little bit deeper into your personal experience. So a lot of us may have grown up with authority figures or parents that have what is the word I'm looking for? Influenced us to internalize voices that tell us you're not doing good enough, or you have to do XYZ in order to be worthy. You have to do this thing that I think you should do. You have to be in this way. You have to have this certain achievement. You have to have this certain job. You have to wear these certain clothes or have this certain look or have this certain weight in order to be worthy of love. So if you grew up with people, which my heart goes out to you if this happened to you, but if you grew up with people, especially people in your house, your direct relatives, your parents, if you grew up with people who were very critical of you, it is only natural that you may have an overactive mind towards self-criticism. And I do want you to know that you can, over time, start to basically develop your own ideas about how well you're doing and your own ideas about worthiness. So those are some of the things, like they're the big ways we get to this idea that we need to constantly be self-criticizing ourselves. And it just makes me very, very, very sad that any of us experience those things or go through those things. So what can we do about it? I don't want to leave you hanging on a kind of, sad point. So what can we do about it? So first, take the energy of the Virgo eclipse that we're experiencing and even after, and focus on thinking about ways that you can refine your life without tearing yourself down. Again, think about the balance, right? So here are 5 ways that you can practice being less self-critical. So first, you can focus on replacing perfection with progress, okay? This is something that I learned a lot about myself when I was in therapy. I tend to have black and white thinking. So it's either perfect or it's useless. And that is a super whack way to go through life, thinking about things that you put your energy toward. So the Virgo energy loves detail, but instead of obsessing over something being perfect, try to focus on how you have improved. And this is something that I used to do when I worked with small children. when they would get frustrated, like, oh, I don't remember the word that I learned from yesterday. I don't remember my vocabulary word. And I would gently say, you didn't remember that one, but you did remember 5 other ones. But the human mind, even when we're little, can definitely focus on all the things we're doing wrong. So as an adult, I'm presuming most people listening to this will be adults, but as an adult, we need to give ourselves that same level of love and kindness as well. Focus on not if you got a 10 out of 10, but if you got a 9 out of 10, an 8, a 7, a 6, or a 5, whatever, if you got a 1 out of 10 and yesterday you got a 0 out of 10, you have improved. That is fantastic. So each small step, I want you to try to celebrate it as a success. Celebrate progress instead of chasing perfection. Another way that you can practice being less self-critical is turn your inner critic into a guide. So I'm going to give you an example. So when you hear a harsh voice in your mind, try to tell yourself to just stop for a minute. So, and ask yourself, what are you trying to protect yourself from? So, for example, like using the vocabulary word example, I know this is an example for kids, but let me think of one for an adult. So, with health and fitness, right? So, instead of saying like, oh my gosh, I will always be a terrible fat person or whatever it is. This is from my own mind, okay? This is not directed at you. This is from my own mind. I will always be a fat person. I'm never going to do, never going to get better, whatever. I try to pause that voice and instead say, okay, what can I do differently to help me reach my goals? So do you see the difference? Instead of, I'll always be fat, I'll always look like this, I'll always, feel like this or whatever. The guide would instead say, okay, you have that feeling, you have that thought, but instead, what can you do? Let's make a plan. What can you do to address that? So that's critic to guide. The third thing that you can do is to practice some compassionate routines. So I just gave you like an in the moment kind of example, but what about the routines? Like practice compassionate routines. The energy of Virgo loves like daily rituals. For me, that's having my tea every single morning and taking my vitamins. For you, that might look like something else, but basically build compassion into your routine. Build some small acts of self-kindness into your schedule. So some examples may be having your nice coffee or tea in the morning, like I mentioned, journaling, some movement, some nourishing food, taking some time to do some mindful breaths, just taking some quiet time for yourself. And over time, each of these moments will retrain your brain to value gentle, compassionate ways of being instead of jumping out of bed and telling yourself, I got to do this, I got to do that, and I just got to be perfect. Over time, you can retrain that little voice in your brain to still get things done. You'll notice with each of these things I'm telling you, you're still doing stuff. It's just in a different, more gentle way, different direction of energy. The fourth thing that you can do is do some journaling. So I will share the journal prompt that I'm going to personally use at the end of this podcast. So stay tuned for that. It's coming up just in a few minutes. But you can journal with the eclipse energy. Again, this is another thing that you can take action on, but it's something that you can also do that is compassionate. So new moons are typically described as the time that we want to plant seeds. And during this eclipse, you can write down some of the criticisms you want to release and the affirmations you want to embody. So, for example, I release the belief that I am never enough. I choose to honor my effort and growth. I'll say that one more time. I release the belief that I am never enough. I choose to honor my effort and my growth. And the last thing that you can do is to invite in healing support. So one of the things that over time I've learned that is really helpful to me is to stop trying to do everything alone. Because when I am too alone, doing too many things alone, that critical voice becomes louder and louder and louder because I don't have anyone to help me balance it. So for you, invite in some healing support. Virgo is connected, the energy of Virgo is connected to health and service. So being less critical doesn't mean that you must be alone. Actually, I would say self-criticism is greatly diminished when you're not doing things alone. So you can talk with a friend if you can afford therapy at this time. Therapy is a great support. If you have like a book club, a group chat, trusted friends, trusted is the important word here, but people who care about you genuinely, who know you deeply, they can be a very great support system for you. So in closing, before I close, I wanted to share with you my personal journaling prompt that I am going to use over the next few days, weeks actually. And so what I am going to focus on in my own journaling practice is the question, where am I most critical of myself? Where am I most critical of myself? I've given you lots of examples already in this podcast, but that's something that I'm going to journal on over the next several days, and I invite you to do the same. So in closing, if you enjoyed this podcast, first, please make sure to leave me a comment. The comments really help to push out the meditation videos and this video and everything like that to other people, and subscribe to the channel. So I would very much appreciate that, and a like on the video. So in closing, just to wrap up kind of what we talked about, the Virgo new moon solar eclipse is not just about silencing your inner voice. It's about transforming it. Silencing, harsh. Transforming, less harsh, helpful, right? Criticism can transform into a way to give yourself more clarity about yourself. Your pursuit of perfectionism can instead become a pursuit of acknowledging your progress, and the drive to fix, quote unquote, fix stuff, people, situations can instead become a personal devotion to your own healing. So as you move through this eclipse, I want you to remember that you are not broken. You do not require all of this fixing and all of this stuff. Instead, I invite you very gently to think of yourself as becoming, as progressing. Every time you choose kindness or even a pause over your self-critique, you can align yourself more deeply with the gift of our Virgo energy, which is the gift of acknowledging your wholeness. And you are very whole, my friend. Already, you are very whole. So again, I hope you enjoyed this little dive into the Virgo energy. I hope that it helps you to work with the new moon solar eclipse energy. And please make sure to subscribe. Until next time, I am wishing you lots of love and care from my heart to yours. And I'll see you in the next video. All my best. Namaste.